Hello friends, Tom Downey here. It is Senior Bowl week for the NFL, and with no combine this year, at least not anything resembling the normal NFL combine, this year's Senior Bowl carries a little bit of extra weight because there are a bunch of different prospects who opted out of the college football season and we haven't seen play since 2019. So for those players in particular, this year's Senior Bowl means just a little bit more. All right, let's dive into some of these top prospects to watch here. Jamie Newman, who is the Wake quarterback, or maybe he's the Georgia quarterback. He never actually played for the Georgia Bulldogs. He spent 2019 at Wake Forest and showed some real flashes, has some of the traits that NFL teams want. He's athletic, he has a good arm, but he struggled without receiver Sage Surratt and wasn't that accurate at Wake Forest. I was excited to see him at Georgia, and then he opted out. I would argue that Jamie Newman has some of the most to gain and lose at this year's Senior Bowl. If he impresses and plays well, he might sneak himself into day two. If he struggles, and or if there are some players who aren't in shape at this year's Senior Bowl, their stock's going to take a significant hit. Now, with the Senior Bowl almost here, who wants a new NFL mock draft? If you guys want me to put together another first-round mock draft with, everything done in the NFL season except for the Super Bowl, I want you guys to like this video. If we get enough, the bosses here are going to let me do another mock draft. So help me help you guys by liking the video. Let's go to Mac Jones now, the quarterback from Alabama. His numbers speak for themselves. He simply dominated for the Crimson Tide. But there is a unique opportunity for Mac Jones to potentially secure first-round draft status this week. Fair or not, one of the main knocks on Mac Jones that he benefited from a great supporting cast at Alabama, and he might not be as good of a playmaker and more of a game manager at the NFL area. But if he impresses at the Senior Bowl, where the level of competition is much more even, playing with guys he doesn't have elite chemistry with, that will go a long way to silencing some of those concerns. If Mac Jones impresses, I think he's going to go in round one. Colts and Bears need a franchise quarterback. Now, maybe they trade for somebody, but they could take Mac Jones in round one. Steelers, Saints are searching for long-term guys. So let me know what you guys think. Will Mac Jones go in the first round of the 2021 NFL Draft? Type 1 for yes, 2 for no, and I'm going to make this question the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get the ad break, scroll on down and let me know. To running back now, Kylin Hill, who passing game-wise showed a lot in his 3 games this year for Mississippi State, but then he also opted out fairly quickly. And that was kind of interesting in the end, and there were some issues, I think, between Hill and that coaching staff at Mississippi State. He wasn't nearly as good on the ground this year. Now the question mark is, is he going to be the same guy we saw in 2019 on the ground plus his passing game? If so, Kylin Hill, he could go in the top 100 picks, somewhere in that range. So I think because he opted out so early in the season, there's a lot to gain for him this week. Over now to wide receiver Dwayne Eskridge out of Western Michigan. Not a household name, but in 6 games this year for the Broncos, he put up 768 yards and 8 scores on just 33 catches. Now, he does not have good size. He's more of a vertical threat, and you can get him involved in screens because he's so electric with the ball in his hands, but his route running's not great, and that is a bit of a concern for a 24-year-old. So I know there's a little bit of buzz around him from limited production. Look, 6 games, you can double that for a normal college football season, and those are some pretty insane production stats for Dwayne Eskridge. I am excited to see how he goes up against a much better level of competition at the Senior Bowl. Let's start with Michigan's wide receiver, Nico Collins now. Remember, he also opted out of the 2020 college football season. Collins has a very intriguing blend of size and speed for teams like the Green Bay Packers, for example, who want guys who can be vertical threats because they're big and fast. Collins fits that mold. The issue here and why I think the Senior Bowl matters so much for him, well, he opted out, hasn't played in a season, and frankly didn't put up great production. Now, how much of that was on Michigan's quarterback play? Probably a fair amount of it. 37 catches for 729 yards and 7 scores. That statistical profile, combined with his size and speed, makes him an intriguing potential deep threat in the NFL. Is he ever going to be a number 1 receiver? If he can show that he's developed more separation and route ability, that might make some more sense there for Collins. But this week matters a lot to him. I know there were many in the NFL and the advanced scouting community that entering this year were like, oh, hey, Collins could be a top 50 pick. Opting out, I think, is going to more or less ruin those in a strong wide receiver class, or at least ruin those chances. But a strong Senior Bowl showing could put him very much in the top 100 conversation. So I want you guys to predict for me, what round will Nico Collins be drafted? 1 to 7, and then if you don't think it's drafted, just type in, I don't know, none or undrafted free agent. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Offensive line now. I love the Senior Bowl for the O-line because there are always a dozen to even 2 dozen, or at least half a dozen, of these very unheralded offensive linemen coming from schools like Northern Iowa. You guys remember Ali Marpet at the Senior Bowl, impressed, and is now one of the best guards in the NFL. Spencer Brown is listed at 6'9", 321. We will get some official size measurements here early on in the Senior Bowl process. I'm going to bet he's not actually 6'9", because if I know one thing about the way college teams list weight and size, it's that they lie and they cannot be trusted. But he moves very well for his size. Even he's like 6'6" or 6'7". That's some really good size on a player. Produced decently at Northern Iowa. 16 hurries is a little bit more than you want at that level of competition. But his size and speed, if you can coach him up from a technique perspective, that could be another small school riser that benefits from the Senior Bowl showing. Now, what I want you guys to do for me in the comments section is shout out a Senior Bowl prospect that you like. And I might not be able to get to every single one of these, but I'm going to try to respond with just a quick thought on how I feel about that particular prospect. So if you've got someone you like or someone you want to know more about, scroll on down and shout them out for me in the comments section. To defense we go now. Levi Onwuzurike, I've heard it pronounced like 4 different ways. I am confident, though, that it's Onwuzurike. Out of Washington, another opt-out for the 2020 college football season. I was a bit disappointed because I was hoping for a real breakout season. I think that Levi is a 3-tech in the NFL, an 11.1% pressure rate, flashed a pretty good amount, never quite took that next step forward, and I was hoping it was going to be 2020. But he played out of position a decent amount for Washington. They have a very weird, I'm going to call it, defensive front where he's playing nose guard in a 3-down lineman front. He's playing the 3 technique or even some edge rusher reps as well. He's a 3-tech in the NFL. I think if he impresses the Senior Bowl in a not great defensive line class, he could secure himself a top 50 pick status. Now, for you NFL fans out there, there are some jerseys on sale at chatsports.com/jersey deal. Under $80, you can get a Tua one, a Joe Burrow one, although the Bengals ones, those are going to go on sale even further in the near future because they got some new jerseys coming their way. They'll also be available at chatsports.com/jersey deal. Panthers fans, it's Dolphins and Panthers. Coaching the Senior Bowl this week, Christian McCaffrey won. Heck, even the new versions of the Rams ones, Aaron Donald, I guess they're still new, at chatsports.com/jersey deal. I'll put that link in the comments and in the description. Let's go now to Marvin Wilson, the defensive lineman from Florida State, who I was hyped about entering the 2020 season. I'm like, oh yeah, this guy was so good in 2019, flashed all this potential, was a bit banged up, but he could have a Derek Brown-type bounce back. He was going to be a top 50 pick had he turned pro last season. Then this year comes around, and the stats kind of speak for themselves, right? Yes, fewer games. The impact was nowhere near as much, not just in the passing game, but in the run game as well. Now, maybe Marvin Wilson was a bit banged up. If that comes out, I think that helps him a little bit. But if you're Wilson, if you can dominate the Senior Bowl, you could jump yourself back into that top 50 conversation. I hope he plays well. If he has a rough week of practice and, of course, during the actual bowl game, that's going to hurt his draft stock even more. All right, edge rusher. I went with Carlos Basham. I'm trying to get like one of each position, by the way, guys, and I have a bunch of different routes you can go here. I like Basham. Boogie Basham is an elite nickname, and I believe nicknames mattered for your NFL success. Had consistent production at Wake Forest. Is built like a base defensive end. He's listed at 6'5", 285. Not sure he's actually 6'5", but he had 5 sacks, and again, a limited sample size this year because college football stats are all lessened this year because there just wasn't as much opportunity game-wise. I think he could have some success by bullying some of these Senior Bowl offensive tackles. He's a good athlete for his size. he could impress and sneak himself into maybe even the back end of round 1. Let's go to linebacker Jabril Cox out of LSU and also technically North Dakota State. He was a transfer from the Bison, played for 1 year at LSU. Now, he was not great against the run, but he can cover. And you know what kind of play style benefits you at the Senior Bowl? Just practice heavy and just the one actual game. It's being able to cover. And if Jabril Cox can impress in coverage and lock down tight ends like he did at times at LSU and force some pass breakups and interceptions, well, he could also end up being an early day 2 guy. Not the biggest, bulkiest linebacker. Heck, you go 20 years ago, this guy's a safety in the NFL. But in today's NFL, he fits much better as a linebacker from that perspective. So I'm excited to see what Jabril Cox ends up doing. I think he'll put himself in good position to make some money at this year's Senior Bowl. Now, if you guys want more NFL draft videos, go subscribe today. Not just mock drafts, we'll do some prospect rankings, plenty of mailbags, answering your guys' questions on the NFL draft. And don't worry, we'll do some Senior Bowl winners and losers here, and maybe some of these names will end up being on that list, hopefully on the winner's side. But if you don't want to miss out, hit that big red button and subscribe today. Now, if you guys remember Ifatu Belafon, the former second-round pick from the Raiders, here's his brother, Ifatu Belafon, with the cornerback from Syracuse, and just like his older brother, a very gifted athlete with a great size, speed profile. Now, the knocks on Belafon are he plays a little bit finessey, not very physical, despite having the profile of being a tough, physical jam press man corner. If you can get him to be more physical, I think that would result in some more success for him. But in a cornerback class that outside the top 2, maybe 3, I think it's a little bit murky. There's no combine this year, which will end up hurting him. But if he shows out of the Senior Bowl, flashes the athletic ability, someone's going to talk themselves into him early because NFL teams love to find corners who are long and athletic, and that's exactly what Belafon is. I want you guys to go to the comments again for me here and let me know your favorite NFL draft prospect. Does not have to be, you got to think who's the best. That's Trevor Lawrence for most of us. Just your favorite one. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Another Michigan prospect I wanted to mention here, Amari Thomas, who, much like Nico Collins, opted out of the 2020 college football season. I don't know if that was the best move for Thomas, especially in hindsight, given that how many teams actually were able to play college football this season, especially everyone in the end outside of some FCS programs. He did not get that much experience at Michigan in terms of valuable snaps and reps as NFL teams want. He was only targeted 57 times at Michigan over his college career. That's not very much. Now, when he did get targeted, he was able to make some plays on the ball. This coverage stat line is pretty damn good. Now, it'll be tougher, of course, in the NFL, but 3 interceptions, 3 pass breakups, that's pretty solid. Thomas, we'll see if he's actually 6 foot. One of the bigger concerns for him, I think, is he was listed by Michigan at 183. That's pretty damn light for an NFL outside cornerback, especially one who is fast, but not top of the line, off the charts, blazing speed like you would hope for someone coming in under 185. So adding some more weight and retaining his athletic ability would be a nice boost to see early in the Senior Bowl for Amari Thomas. We also have some college football face coverings on sale for you guys. Head over to chatsports.com/CFBMass. They got Michigan, they got Alabama, they got all the major college programs available. It is at chatsports.com/CFBMasks. And don't worry, folks, I will make sure that link gets put in both the comments section and in the description. To wrap things up here, a safety, because I just love falling in love with a good safety prospect. Richie Grant, who played both strong safety and free safety at Central Florida. Little bit more free safety early in his career, and then was around the box a bit more frequently, especially this past 2020 season. That's kind of reflected in his numbers. But 10 interceptions over 3 seasons, that's got value. I know it's against the AAC, but if you're consistently generating interceptions and you can offer some in-the-box ability, I think that has value. I want to see Grant show range as a true single high free safety. That carries more value than a box safety, but in a kind of muddled safety class, I think Grant could be one of the first 5 guys off the board at that position.